Well, build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Longbangers in association with Leith Spirits. I'm Matty.
Hello, I'm Colin.
Good evening, I'm John.
How are you both doing this evening? Colin, how are you? How's your weekend been?
All right, aye, not bad. Just hanging about football pitches. Not at St Johnstone, though.
No.
Just to be clear, just so we're clear enough.
For full transparency, yeah.
Yeah.
You have seen the game, though, yeah?
I have seen the whole 90 minutes, or 90 odds, yeah. Seen it all.
I was thinking about this, right? Well, obviously, it's been a topic of conversation on the forums, and we got pulled up about it on the bounce as well. And John, I will ask how you're doing as well in a second, by the way. I'm just going off on an early tangent. And I was like, how many times have we sat and text somebody, kind of like you're at the ground and you see like a decision and you go, oh, fuck, I think what happened? And you text and say, was that a penalty?
Mm-hmm.
And then your mate's sitting at home, like, watch it and say, nah, I've seen it. It's like, there's no touched him. He's dived, or it was a mile off, and you thought they're onside. And then you go home and you watch the highlights and you get a better understanding of what's happened. I was thinking, like, if anything, like, it's no like the old days. Kim, when you used to have Jim Trainer on the radio, and they would phone in and they would say, "We get the game caller," and they would say, "No," and they've had no way of watching it, and you would go, "All right, well, they've not got a fucking clue what's happened." Then it's different now. Now if you've watched it on TV, Colin, for example, you've had the benefit of somebody talking you through what's going on, replays, the sort of the key incidents, the different camera angles, close-ups, and all the rest of it. Me and John, like, you're having to look, what's going on doing at that end? You can't see if somebody's offside or no. I mean, John, you thought, who was it you thought had scored the second one?
I thought it was Chris Cadden.
Chris Cadden.
Coming away for the game, I was chatting to freelance podcaster Dave Graham, and he was saying to me, "Are you fucking stupid? Like, it was Paul Hanlon." I went, "Nah, Paul Hanlon wasn't even on the pitch at the time." Because
funny though,
I just watched the game, couldn't remember the exact sequence of events, and as Matty's saying there, I was having to deal with the drum over to our left, the sun bouncing off the advertising boards, over to sort of diagonal to our right, and the goal being scored in amongst a sort of not quite a goalmouth scramble, but certainly a lot of bodies in there.
Aye.
I had no idea.
It's funny. To be fair, and I was sitting next to John, like, so. I mean, you don't have to take some personal responsibility here, John. But
no, absolutely. Like,
it
was. I think I had it in my mind that it was Cadden that had scored, possibly. So I'd had it in my mind that Cadden had scored. Then it had almost cemented itself when I saw Cadden with the ball in front of us knocking out of play, because you know it's one of those when the goal scoring ball gets sold.
Aye.
So he's knocked out. So it's just cemented itself. I'm like, aye, fine, it's Cadden that scored. Brilliant. Let's move on.
No, but you're the only one though, because Clough got one Cadden and Hanlon mixed up as well yesterday, and he was at the game. But I'm sitting in the house going, that's Hanlon. So I knew better, and I was fucking in Edinburgh rather than fucking Perth. So anyway,
it's funny. Do you remember the derby where Griffiths hit the free kick at Easter Road and it's bounced by line? Jamie McDonagh was the keeper.
Aye.
And I remember getting, however long ago that game was, I remember getting texts with folk at the time saying that's definitely over the line. Like, and I'm sure it was even, I don't know if it was like early Twitter, but I definitely remember screenshots coming through from folk. I don't know whether it was being posted on Facebook or whatever, but you got to see it early doors. So I think the idea, and I'm going to try and label the point of like defending things, like we've all got responsibilities outside of going to football. Like yesterday, there was absolutely no reason that we really needed to go to watch Hibs at McDermott Park other than being Hibs supporters.
Hibs fans, yes.
We could have easily body swerved it and just went, fuck that, I'll watch on the TV. But no, we jumped in a car and went up there.
And Colin, you were also watching Hibs on Saturday as well. I'll give you your alibi. You were watching Hibs just at a different level, like at grassroots level. Like you were still doing your bit. It wasn't like you've gone fucking Hibs, I'm in the huff, I've not got back or anything like that.
No, wasn't anything like that.
You were. I mean, I didn't kind of how many loyalty points you would get for going to watch what is under 16s girls.
14s and 16s today.
Right,
so I've doubled up this weekend.
Doubled up on the loyalty points for it.
Yeah, but no, I mean, a serious point about it though, like, that's what I've said before about the manager. The manager's getting a shit view at the side of the pitch, just to placate fans that want him to be animated on the touchline, pointing his fingers at his head and shouting and waving his arms. He'd be better. I'm not saying no being at the game, but he'd be better sitting higher up with a better view, or like you see on the telly in other sports, with their laptops with that open, so they can get the replays up, so they can see things, so they can change things.
Aye.
Standing pitch side is the worst view in the stadium, and that's where we all want them to be. Mental.
Arteta did the waving arms and the pointing at the forehead at 3-2 the day in the Spurs game. Spurs
It's the right
Arsenal.
time though. At least to go at the right time. That's exactly when you should be doing it.
I was
What's
thinking
the
he should have done
waving
that like this.
All right, like to get the crowd going, or
I think he was trying to take off. I don't know.
Wafting a fart away.
I think he was like, this might go 3-3 and I want to get a quick exit. I wonder if I can fly. But as it was, he managed the game well and he got his message through. Folk did concentrate and they saw it out. Anyway, right, what the fuck are we on about? Let's get on to... actually, John, I was going to ask how you're doing. How are you doing?
Do you know, I was going to let that slide and then pull you up right at the end of the episode, but actually I'm good. It's been a fun-filled weekend of activities with the Bairn. Dance class yesterday, then the football. This morning we were out swimming, and then this afternoon what were we doing? We were at a thing out on Old Dalkeith Road. It was like a South African braai. This thing, I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was nice. Meat, patties, fried, grilled, you name it. It was brilliant.
That sounds good. Okay, right. Let's start with the start lineup then, right? Get straight into things. Colin, when you saw the starting lineup yesterday, what were your thoughts?
I saw Ewan was straight out the squad, so I assumed injury rather than anything else. Other than that, it was almost same again, eh? Really, there's not really any changes there.
Lafondre came in because we never started by a striker against or a recognised striker against Motherwell, so he came in.
Did he? Right, okay, fair enough. But it's got a very familiar look about it, hasn't it? Even if you take that memory lapse of mine out. Other than that, I seen Vetty was back on the bench, which was he might have been on the bench against Motherwell as well. Actually, I can't fucking remember. When was the Motherwell game? Feels like fucking ages ago. But aye, familiar team, eh? Like it's recognisable. If you were naming that, like I said, maybe a week or two ago, I got 10 out of 11 correct. I think when I done the fan hub thing, I never done it this week, but they're the names you expect to see now, eh?
So John, I'll just run through the team. So we had Marshall in goals. You had Cadden and Abita as the full backs, and Rocky and Fish as the centre halves. In midfield, you had Newell, Mariah Welsh, and Emiliano, and then the forward players were Mizian and Lafondre and Martin Boyle. Yeah. John, what were your first impressions of the team?
Much the same as Colin. There wasn't really anything that stood out there that made me think, I wonder what the thoughts are there. Lafondre probably stuck out, and then later in the game, he stuck out a little bit because it was probably an off game for him in a Hibs trip. I thought what was quite interesting about the starting lineup, me and Dave were, before we came and picked you up, Matty, we were talking about the starting 11 and what that might suggest for Montgomery in the next 5 games and beyond. Whether he played some youngsters, whether he played the sort of the established 11. I'd made the point that I wasn't sure that if Montgomery was going to be out the door come the end of the season, whether playing some youngsters was going to have any sort of impact, because presumably anyone that came in next might decide that he's not going to play them, so any benefit that was gained was going to be lost. So aye, like the start 11's the start 11. It's, as Colin says, it's that sort of, it's the start 11 that you've come to recognise that's been fairly consistent, I think.
What was your conclusion about what the team meant for Monty's future then? Because there was like a lot of chat going into this game about, so depending on who you talk to, either no pressure on the players or more pressure because of the statement that Hibs had put out. They sort of piled on the pressure on Montgomery in particular to say, well, you've got 5 games to save your job. You need to win them all. So he was kind of caught between a rock and a hard place with this one, I think. How did you land then with when you saw the team? What did it say about his future, John?
I don't think we really reached any sort of conclusion. I think we more just sort of like talked around the permutations of what might happen based on the lineup. And I think sometimes the manager is on a bit of a hiding to nothing, because if he goes with a starting 11, there'll be a group of fans that'll say, well, he should be starting the young guys. Like, I think we've seen that across forums, Facebook, Twitter, what have you. And then you'll have another group that says, well, you should be playing the starting 11. Like, you should be playing players like Emiliano and Mizian, for example, because they're your best assets and you want to finish as high up the league as possible, albeit I say as high up the league.
You want to finish
top
seventh?
of the bottom six.
Yeah.
You want to finish
But,
seventh.
now we're there. You want to finish seventh, yeah.
So, there wasn't really a conclusion.
But as Colin Jink, there's an argument to be made to say that we should have seen some youngsters at least on the bench in these last 5 games, or is it more important to get the job done? Because the win yesterday means we can't get pulled into in any playoff trouble now. So,
like I said on the radio, by the way, I never got any credit for that. I think I was first to call it with the exclusive there.
Oh, well done.
But I think there's space on the bench for a couple of laddies, right? Because look, my Ender's not getting a game. So there's one right away that's just keep my seat warm.
Yeah.
We could easily, there's one. Then you could argue Jair as well. Would be a second one. The rest are all recognised first team players. Stevenson and Hanlon are there probably to now get their tally up on how many games they've played. And that sounds terrible because Hanlon made a difference, like we'll come on to when he came on. But that's who we are. There's definitely 2 seats on that bench that a laddie could have taken.
I wonder if we'll see it on the next sort of couple of games then, particularly the home games.
Well, now that we're safe, eh?
Yeah. There was a wee bit of noise when we saw it come through. Actually, John, after we'd seen the first the team sheet, we were in the pub, and this is again off on a wee tangent. We were going to make the walk from the pub. What was the pub called again, John?
Glover's Arms.
Glover's Arms. The short walk from there to the stadium, and as we're coming out of the pub, there was 2. I think if it's rude to say elderly women, they were older than us, right? That's probably nice. We got
I wonder how they describe you.
Elderly men, right? So
younger
enough, I have no qualms with that. And they stopped us as we were going out, and they said, "Which way is it to the stadium? Can we walk it, or do we need a taxi?" And John, you'd sort of pointed them out. You said you can go through these. It's like shortcuts through the gap in the bushes there up to the roundabout, and just walk straight that way, or you can go the scenic route, which is like the path that will take you around to the same bit. And John, do you remember the comment that followed that from them?
It was words to the effect of, "If we take the bushes, are you going to molest us?"
Is that what you look like?
That's what they asked us. I mean, they were joking. I said, I was just about to ask you the same thing." But none of that happened. That happened, but there was no molesting happened. No, just in case anybody's wondering how that story ends, we just.
This will be one of the clips in years' time. They'll say, "And here was a clue." Kind of like when Jimmy Savile sitting on the
couch. No, there was none of that. We just made our way calmly to the ground after that. Anyway, right. So the game itself. Let's. I got Sky Sports put the highlights up on Twitter, so that this kind of helps us to how to speak about it. So let me just get that up on the screen for those watching on YouTube and for the benefit of used to. So we're talking. So the first highlight that comes up is Marcondes' free kick. John, talk us through your memory of just what happened just before this and then it happening.
So prior to the free kick, I think Martin Boyle took when he sort of trademark runs in from the right hand side and he drives into the middle, and he's kind of clipped and he goes down. And again, from my vantage point in the stadium, I thought that Marcondes was further left. I didn't realise that from where I was sitting that he's hit the free kick sort of right of the penalty spot, so it's taken this big arc over the wall and at the top corner. But just before Marcondes goes to hit it. Matty, you're sitting to my left and you say to me, Marcondes is meant to be a bit of a free kick specialist. And I went, well, we're about to find out. And just as pretty much just as I said that, the ball sailed into the top left-hand corner.
It's funny, I had the conversation in the house. I says to Carol and Gray, I was like, he's supposed to be good at free kicks. We've just not seen him really have any yet since he came, So he is good at them.
And it was absolute peach, wasn't it? I mean, he's miles out as well. I didn't really kind of get a sense at the game just quite how far out he was. I thought he was
not quite.
They could do it. Yeah.
I was going to say it's not quite it's a really good free kick. And my initial thought was kind of that he was further left and he just kind of like dinked it over the wall at the top left-hand corner. But he's actually got like a massive whip on it, big arc coming over sort of right to left. It's a really good strike, and I think the way that it sort of dips under the crossbar, I think it's deceived the goalkeeper.
Aye, so I was going to say that. Well, there's one angle you see it how high it went, and then dipped. It's a good free kick, really good free kick.
Keeper's no chance for it.
No.
The boy never got booked for it for the foul, which I thought was weird. There was a couple of Rocky got a booking for the goalie kicking the ball. I think technically it is a booking, but I'm not sure how much Rocky meant to kind of block it. But there was a couple of fouls that the referee just I think the referee actually had an alright game overall. As much as I'm kind of normally the last person to give the referee credit, that was probably my only criticism, is that he was quick to book Rocky, but then
that was the only booking that he dished out. And I think for our vantage point, I thought that the booking on Rocky was harsh, because I don't think he's deliberately tried to impede the goalkeeper, but there's certainly been other instances throughout the game where a player has tried to impede his opponent.
Yeah. But I think it is, if you try to stop a goalkeeper kicking, I think that's like a technical yellow. So maybe it's one where the referees just feels he's not got any discretion to use there. And
that's it. It's black and white, that rule, but the other ones aren't, because I think there is an angle you'll see in the Rocky one. He almost does take a wee
step to the side,
to the left, and because at first I was like, oh, this is like the Macalambi one at Aberdeen, and then I seen the replays and I thought, but then
I was at that game. I can talk about that one.
Were you?
I can't really. I just watched that on the telly, John. So,
so we go 1-0 up. St Johnstone almost comes straight back into it. We've got this pass out from Marshall. Marcondes loses it, and it's the boy's name, is it Sidibe or something like that? Goes through and Marshall makes the save.
I think so.
I've never got his name completely wrong. Apologies if I have, but he had quite a good game against us at Easter Road. But
Sidibe, yeah.
Sidibe, yeah. This would have been fairly typical of a stupid Hibs goal to lose if it wasn't for Marshall making the save. If you think about how we lost the game in McDermott Park earlier in the season, which was Dylan Levitt trying to pass out for there, pass it straight to a St Johnstone player, and then bang, goal. But a good save from Marshall. Anything you want to kind of cover on that wee incident before we move on?
They're trying to do the right thing though. They're trying to play nice football and knock it in the midfield, and he's just not to take a good touch. He's not scanned or whatever.
Aye.
I don't think it's a great finish for the boy. It's a good save, but it's not a great finish.
And then we get this one where we break forward, lands at the feet of Malida. A good save for the goalkeeper, tips onto the bar. John, what do you think of that goal? There's been a bit of chat about him sort of post-match. There was even a thread on Hibsnet and on Twitter, there's quite a few folks suggesting he's the sort of goalkeeper that we should be looking to pick up to replace Marshall.
What do I think? I'm maybe not the best judge, and I wonder who. I would imagine that the people that are best judged to make these sorts of calls as to whether they should be coming to Hibs are Brian McDermott's, Nick Montgomery's, etc. And what I mean by me not being the best judge, previously I've thought that Liam Kelly was a decent keeper, but that's based purely on me watching Hibs against Motherwell and the times that I'd watched them, and thinking that led me to believe that he was a good goalkeeper. But there's been other games that I've not seen that have maybe been that folk have watched on, say, Sports Scene, or other fans have been there and went, fuck, he's had a howler. So the fact that the boy has had a good game against us, I don't think is evidence that he should be signing for Hibs.
By the way,
2 games against us in 3 weeks though, hasn't he?
Yeah. I would say if you're using us getting something wrong or having a wrong opinion on anything as a reason not to give another one, John, we'd be as well shut up shop. Like the amount of wrong opinions we've had on things is like fucking immeasurable. I think, and yet here we will come back for more.
Thing is, like, I look at it from another point of view as well. That I mean, I think we've seen it recently or reasonably recently with like Paul McGinn, for example. You know, it's like, what do you expect when you're signing players from St Mirren? Like St Johnstone are third bottom at the moment and fighting fighting Ross County to not be in the playoff space. So is that really the kind of keeper that you want to be signing?
But I think I saw it was Hibs Bola on Hibs that had posted a thread to say I made a post. I think he's made the most saves of any goalkeeper in the league, and I think he's fourth for save percentage. You know, for like I guess the quality chance that he's kept out. He's fourth for that. I think the Kelly goalkeeper ranks higher than him, who I think is on loan from Bournemouth. So maybe that's an easier solution to a goalkeeper problem, assuming Marshall doesn't get his contract renewed and Walcott goes looking for first team football somewhere else.
What do you think on that though? Just to touch on that, not about the specific keeper, but you're talking about two goalies in our league. That was what I watched a wee bit of the build up to the St Mirren Rangers game before I left the house today, and Boyd was talking. I think about, I'm sure it was about after this game here, and he said they need to be buying players for the league because they know the league. Does that? Do you think that guarantees us to get up into the top four, third place, just by picking St Johnstone's best keeper? I don't know, Tico Hara for St Mirren, or anybody good at Motherwell? You know, the guy up front. You know, or somebody else they've got, like a young laddie maybe to develop. Like, is that the way? Do you think that's the right way?
So I think there's a good argument for it. I think
because he gave an example of John McGinn, and I thought that's a fucking 1 in a million, eh?
Like, I mean, McGinn was, and it was years ago when that happened, and it's not really been replicated since. Although you could argue that I know he wasn't directly from another Scottish team, but you look at Shankland at Hearts, but he knows the Scottish game, and they've taken a wee bit of a chance. I mean, he obviously was a good player, and he's developed there and turned into a really good player. I don't know. Like Rangers and Celtic used to do it. They would go and snap up the best players for, even like Hibs and Hearts and Aberdeen. But I think they do that less now. I think that it's more about getting good players than knowing the league. I think that I would always go, like, I'd take a good player or a better player that doesn't know Scottish football over a good player that knows Scottish football.
Because Malida didn't know Scottish football, and he's been our best player since January.
But I do think there's a case. I think if you could see that they've been proven at this level, so like the goalkeeper here or the boy at Kelly, who I think's outperforming Butland, who's one of the players that I think was tipped for Player of the Year. I think it gives you that reassurance that they're more likely to succeed if they've done that. Like Gogic was getting talked about today, and on Twitter, obviously he was on TV playing Rangers. We had him at Hibs, and he kind of divided opinion. But Gogic, when he came to us, we knew that he could do a job in the league, and he did a job for us. Just then we brought somebody else in. I think it was Doyle Hayes. Was it Jack Ross?
So I was thinking about this earlier when there was some chat around Gogic, because I watched the goal line, like the goal line block that he made, and he'd obviously put in like a power run in to get back there and make sure that he was in that sort of position. And my recollection of it was, and I couldn't quite remember, because you know how that COVID spell, it just kind of obliterated any sort of sense of time. But if I remember Gogic's and the dividing of opinion, am I right in saying that we had the cup final where no fans attended and Witherspoon's kind of done him, and Witherspoon's got the cross in, St Johnstone scored. But then the following game was the start of the season at Motherwell when fans were back in the stadium, and he's had a bad game and he's playing on the left side of midfield, which wasn't his favourite position. And it was almost like, well, you had your Scottish Cup mistake and you've had a shite of the day, and that was it. It was almost like Gogic was blackballed for the Hibs side. And the other thing I was thinking about with regards to Gogic was, I think sometimes, and this maybe ties in with like what we were saying about Liam Kelly or even the St Johnstone keeper, is And actually, what I was suggesting to Dave on the car up the road, and I might have been paraphrasing Liam for Down the Slope, something he said about like ex-girlfriends. Like, you remember the good rides, but you didn't remember the reasons why you let someone go, or you broke up with them. And I think like Gogic today, like there was definite positive qualities that Gogic had, but there was also a reason that people decide, well, he would have had a fucking shiter in those 2 games, so we need to get him to get the fuck. We need to move on and get someone better. But now we're starting to get that wee sort of creeping. Oh, like he's still looking all right. Let's get him back.
Aye, I'm not advocating bringing him back. I was just using him as an example. But is that like to answer your question, Colin? I think there's a good argument for it. Like if you can pick it up, but like we've had our fingers burned. Like we brought in Kyle McGuinness. If you look at like the post John McGinn transfer activity, McGuinness, we've got Dan Mackay, who was shining in the first division. Dylan Tate, again doing really well at lower level. Was getting tipped for big things. Never done anything. Jay Wright was doing well at St Johnstone. We brought him in. He was, lambasted for much of his time by the support at Hibs. Didn't really kind of hit the ground running at all. And there's probably loads of other ones that we could kind of pick out and say, like, Dylan Levitt is one now that looked on paper a great sign, and bringing him in for Dundee United. He did well there. He knows the league, and he's hardly kicked the ball for us this season. So I don't think it guarantees anything, but it probably just gives you that wee bit more comfort that you're on the right tracks. I don't know. Right, let's go back to the highlights. So we had that one that was touched on at the bar. Do you think we overplayed it a wee bit here?
Yep. What I was going to say before about the previous highlight and Marshall and the mistake that was made was that was a mistake that's cost us previously, and there were a number of chances yesterday that we were wasteful with. And I think the chat was at the game, and I've heard it echoed on the radio, and I think I've seen it on the forums, was that you've heard it with some games, where folk go, oh, it could have been 6 or 7. Like legitimately yesterday, I think when we were 2-0 up, there were 4 really good chances, and it could have been legitimately 6-0.
Yeah.
But we were so wasteful. I think you might come on to. So I don't think that was quite a clear-cut chance, but we certainly overplayed it. There's 2 from Martin Boyle, and then I think there's another one that was cleared off the line.
I'm not sure if they're all included in the highlights. This is like the other free kick that this one should have been a booking in the run up to. And here's Boyle going clean through. What do you make of his finish there, Colin?
It's like half-hearted, eh? It's like he's in two minds. What am I going to do? It's almost like he's taking on his right foot as well. When you maybe should take that on the left, and then it's like on almost that outside of the boot, try to flick it over the goalie.
It's such a strange way that he's run into the box to not go on his left foot, because he's put himself into a weaker position to then try and go on his right. My thought at the time was that he'd maybe tried to stab it with the outside of his right foot or whatever, but it looks in the replay that he's maybe tried to lift it, and it's just not worked out for him. And it's just not worked out for him because I think he's going from right to left, and he's tried to get the power to send the ball in the opposite direction.
It really amazes me how players get to, like, professional. They talk about 0.1% of players making it, and the unwillingness to use their other foot is incredible to me. Like, I just think that you would have to have picked it up to get in that 0.1%.
I think he's like I get what you're saying, but see if you look at it, I'm just going to take it back a wee bit here. I think it's actually set up all right for his right foot. If you look at his position in relation to the ball, it does sit nice for the left, but it's in his stride on his right foot as well. I think
if he opens
just makes
his body up, if he opens his body up and goes inside his foot, I think he can bend it in. But he definitely tries to stab it with outside his foot, and I don't know exactly what it is that goes wrong there.
Looks awkward. Just looks awkward, isn't it? Yeah.
We spoke about Boyle at the game yesterday, John, and not just this chance, but a couple other ones, and he got himself into good positions. Probably looked a bit more like the Boyle that we know, minus the confidence, and that looked like like you said there, Colin. It looked like he was in two minds. He's about to take that chance. Not quite sure how to finish it. The ones that he got later on, the chances there. Again, I think he stalled with one and passed it back, which was the one that comes off line, which we'll come on to in a minute. And had other chances where you just think Boyle last season, like before his injury, their goals, like probably all of them are goals because he doesn't think twice about what he's doing. What did you think of his performance yesterday, John?
I do think that he had a good game. I know there was one pass that Marcondes made to him. I think it was second half, and Marcondes is trying to play Boyle down the right hand side. And I think if Boyle makes his run a little bit earlier, he gets the ball ahead of the St Johnstone defender. But it was an easy clearance for the St Johnstone defender because Boyle's not there. But otherwise, so you've had the drive for the right into the middle that leads to the free kick for the first goal. You've got that one there, but there was other situations as well. Second half in those other wasted chances for Hibs, and it was for a variety of reasons. Like I think there was one down the right hand side where both Boyle and I want to say Le Fondre were both in the middle, but the cross that came in for the right hand side, it didn't really reach either of them.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, like I thought that Boyle was getting into the right sort of positions yesterday. Just like you say, like the confidence thing. I don't know why it would be that he's taken a dent in confidence if that's the reason for for a situation like that where he's been caught in two minds, because like he's had his injury and what have you, but it's not like he's been playing really badly.
I don't think we've particularly utilised him very well this season. Do you know, like if you think back to Boyle at his best with Hibs, he was the main man for a while, wasn't he? He was like properly the big fish in a little pond. He reached that sort of stage where he needed to get his, to get a move and go and make his money, etc. And then I think since he's come back, certainly since injury, even his first game back, he gets an equaliser last minute against Hearts. It's like the fairy tale stuff, and then he gets injured, misses the World Cup, and hasn't he really sort of set the heather on fire after that? I can sort of see why he might not be playing with the same amount of confidence, particularly because the team have to be playing a style of play that gets the most out of him. Okay, let's have a look. So just as we stab at it, easy save for the keeper, and here's the second goal. Colin, a long throw from Newell, and then handled as well.
On his wrong foot.
Aye.
Nice finish.
Cadden is in amongst that, by the way.
That's maybe why you assumed that. Maybe that's why you assumed it was Cadden, though, because it was on the right. But a long throw. Nice to see like the set pieces working now as well, eh?
Aye. Because I can't remember the last time. I think we maybe scored once from a Joe Newell long throw. The St Johnstone defender doesn't.
No.
They don't cover themselves in glory, really. This is one of these ones that if it was us that conceded it, we'd be sitting.
And by the way, and that's one of the shouts.
Heads.
He's one of the shouts. Get him in, is it not? The captain. Is that the boy Gordon?
Was it?
When they inevitably beat us, it's like, why have we not got a centre half like him?
Yeah. Aye.
We do. Based on that.
Aye. None of them covered themselves. In fact, all day yesterday, St Johnstone's defence was awful. I thought
how gutted Levine sounded on the radio was tremendous.
I
didn't listen to the words. I just listened to the tone, and I thought that's fucking immense. I'm not even listening to what you're saying because it was shite, but just how down he sounded. I thought, fuck you, brilliant.
We commented on it at the game was the how loud the boos and that were for St Johnstone, and we were talking about it coming out the ground and walking back to the car, and I can't remember even when we've won at St Johnstone before, the crowd having that sort of reaction to them, but it was proper. It was like us or obviously on a smaller scale because there wasn't as many of them. But that sort of they sounded very much like a team, like a support that I've just had enough of their manager and the boy on the radio. Actually, you had him. Like if you stayed tuned in to hear the St Johnstone fan, but he was said he would have sacked him at half time and all this stuff. It was
that sounds familiar.
Aye.
But they're so shit. They're so shit, and I know they beat us 3 weeks ago, but that is like, if you look at it, like they got 2 chances, 2 goals, and we were just not very good that day. But it's one of them you get away with it when you pick up a result, but as soon as you don't, then everybody goes this. And even when we did win, it was fucking shite, and that's probably what they're going through because it's shit every week. They pick up the odd result, they lose the next 3, everybody goes, this is fucking shite. Then they get a result again, they probably get a draw or a win next week, and then they'll be getting to be towards being safe, and then they'll be, when they get beat the next 2, they'll be going, this is fucking atrocious, get rid of him before the end of the season.
Aye.
And that's the cycle they're on because they're shite. They're shite to watch. They play shit football. They just hope that somebody makes a mistake that lets them in. They've got a quick guy up front that might be able to make something. The rest of it's just all about being negative.
Then we've got this Chaz ball gets played through, cuts it back, plays in Melida. Good block or a bad miss, John?
I think overall the attacking move was a bad miss. I think you'd said there, like Martin Boyle previous seasons, I think he probably has a dig there.
Yeah.
But he delays it too long. I think if anything, if Martin Boyle isn't going to shoot, he plays an earlier pass. I think the fact that he delays it and then plays the pass probably slows things down even further. I like it's. I'm trying to give a bit more credit to Melida here than he's maybe due. Like it's pretty much an open goal, and he's hit the player that's standing on the line.
I thought the boy did well to defend it, to block it. Like
So they are.
he's
At
hit
the
it
time, I did.
with a decent amount of power.
In the
It's
corner.
it's on target. And if you look like their position, the defender is fairly central. I suppose you maybe wanted something here, John. I thought the defender was further to the rear post as we're looking at it. Aye, maybe should have done better with it. It's a good block though. Like the boys done well to get back.
No,
the guy moved across. The only, he's in shooting back, reversing it into the other corner, isn't he? That's the only way he could get round.
Yeah.
like see, I could
The
see
guy's
with
just
regards
anticipated where it's going.
see with regards to is it Mitov their goalkeeper is.
Yeah.
So I'd have like the fact that he's made a good save there, like he's blocked it. There's no arguments about that. But see if it was in the corner and he'd saved it, I'd have had more. I'd have went actually like you might be onto something. Like it seems like a fairly routine save for him, and the fact that Hibs had the possession and number of shots etc that they had yesterday without scoring, and he kind of looks like a decent keeper because he's stopping goals from going in. He's not making great saves.
Aye.
Yeah. Then we've got the third goal here. Josh Campbell heads it. Venti, both of them came on as subs. Venti's on the last man. Takes a great touch. We side foot finish. It was a lovely goal, Colin.
Aye, it was simple, like nice finish. Campbell just heads it into space for him, and it's just a nice finish, yeah.
Yeah, miles on side. There's the lines there. Actually, John, when we were talking about players playing with confidence and the way that affects like their decision making, Venti could easily have snatched that, given his lack of game time and he's no featured too much, and when he has, he's not really been in amongst the goals. But the way that he took that, played it in his stride and finished it, looked like somebody who didn't have a care in the world, really, didn't he?
Aye, pretty much. I was having a laugh, a wee giggle at myself there. Sorry, Colin, if I was putting you off, but the thing that I'd mentioned at the game yesterday was for all that you might bring in expensive players, players with a good bit of pedigree, they come up for the Premiership or whatever. You've then got Josh Campbell that just headers the ball over the top of the defence for Ben to run onto. Like it's very, very simple stuff.
Yeah.
Which maybe lends a little bit more of an argument to the seasoned Scottish Premiership players to sign them. But your point about Venti, like I actually really, really enjoyed that goal. And what you were saying about him, maybe snatching at it, maybe overthinking it. He's done nothing of the sort. He's taken a touch in front of him and he's just lashed it beyond the keeper. And I think when you think about the sort of season that he's had, so he had it was that sort of like much publicised by Hibs, like 5 touches, 5 goals kind of thing. And then it sort of fell away. I think he's had a penalty. I think it's maybe been like a tap-in another game, like maybe a ball's been squared to him or something. But that goal yesterday was, I think, indicative of the sort of quality that he has, and you know that we could have benefited from so much more of the season.
Yeah. I think that's what we expected. That's what I expected to see more of. The kind of goals for him.
Mm-hmm.
1-on-1, just look it past the keeper.
I thought we were much more direct yesterday, which probably helped a player like Venti. There was he wasn't playing with his back to goal, trying to bring other players in. Like that chance there was just it was a second ball that Campbell won, heads it over the top, and he just runs onto it. But all day yesterday, our first instinct was to go at St Johnstone. There's very little of the passing about the back. And obviously, I know the reason that they do the passing around the back, and it does have its place. But yesterday we didn't try to pull St Johnstone out. We just got in behind them, and like I think obviously scoring quite early helped because then St Johnstone couldn't sit in quite as much as they would have liked to have done. But we were pretty ruthless in terms of creating chances. Like we probably had a similar number of shots as we did against them at Easter Road, but the quality of the chances that we created on Saturday was miles better, and the performance was miles better. We did concede though. This is a goal. Here's like a ball with the back post. Cadden misjudges it. Rocky and Hanlon leave the boy in the middle, and he has a tap in.
Perhaps goal, eh?
Aye.
We cross in, boy left. Yeah.
If you're no 3-0 up at that stage, you are saying, fuck's sake, typical Hibs.
Exactly, 80 odd minutes, 89.
Aye,
it was last minute, wasn't it?
It was like, I don't know if we've got an issue then, but just like our concentration, that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah.
Anyway, 3-1. Anything else noteworthy of the performance that you want to call out before we go into the talking points?
Something that occurred to me there was, it was a point that Martin Metcalf made on one of our phone-ins a couple of weeks ago about learning on the job, etc. And I think the counterpoint to that was that everyone in some capacity is always learning on the job. And I was thinking about how many times Montgomery has came up against St Johnstone this season and who was in charge, and whether that approach that you described yesterday from Hibs was Montgomery having learned from his experience from the previous game. And if he did, if he has learned something and he's went, well, I need to do something differently against that team, that manager next time, what do you think that says about him?
That's a question. What do you think?
No, it's positive if that is what happened. We don't know that, do we? That's the thing. Like, it's not like he's come out and went, aye, well, we played them 3 weeks ago and I just decided we need to get forward quickly, because he doesn't say anything like that in his interview, does he? He just
no.
But I mean, I suppose you would draw the conclusion for the fact that we played a different style, that they've looked to see how they could have done better from the last time.
But did we though? Well, there's people that argue. I've seen people argue that it's not any different for the last time. It's just we took our chances this time.
No, I would say it was different. I think that we'll probably go back to what I was just saying like a second ago. The intent,
quality chances
in the attack, and the reason that we had better quality chances because we got the ball forward quicker and we got it into the attacking players facing the goal more often than we did at Easter Road, where we fannied about with the ball too much. Like we had, I don't know what the possession stats were, but I think we probably had more possession.
It was even.
Was it?
It was even yesterday. I was just looking at that.
No. I mean, between the two games. So for Easter Road, at Easter Road, we had loads of the ball. I didn't create loads of good chances, but I don't think the possession would have been as heavy in our favour on Saturday. But we had much better chances, and I think it's that's what the difference is. We're like, get the ball, go forward. Did it need to be this patient build up? We were impatient with our build up, and it worked.
So just get it forward quickly. Is that what we're saying?
More quickly.
Against some teams, it probably works. In this league, that's how we get fucking beat a lot of times. Because teams just get it forward quickly and put you under pressure.
Yeah,
maybe that's the key to the league.
Yeah, I just had a wee look there, and I think we beat St Johnstone in September last year. I think Montgomery was in charge at that point.
Yeah.
Levine was appointed in November. 2 games where he's beat us home and away, and then that one where we've won.
And well worth the win as well. Like you said, it could have been 6 or 7. Right, let's go to the talking points. We've got, I don't know, about 10 minutes or so left, so we'll get the talking points up on the screen. We'll let's go through these. So the first one we've got is from Chris. Chris says, everything went right today. No pressure on the players, all the pressure on the manager. The question for me is, are the players we have not mentally strong enough, and how do we fix that? Colin, you want to take that one?
That's quite an interesting. I don't know, because there was pressure yesterday, and I seen a few tweets coming in last night about that. There's no pressure because of the bottom 6 thing, but we were creating the pressure ourselves, I suppose, with the statement, certainly on the manager, with the got to win games. and our own fan base talking about we've got to end up in the playoffs because it's so Hibs and all that. So I think there was some element of pressure yesterday, and but not the pressure we want, because we want the pressure to be about fighting for European places, not for the bottom six championship.
The wooden spoon.
Yeah.
And I suppose, John, like there was, to kind of build on Colin's point there, St Johnstone needed to win. They're not safe yet, and they would have been looking at this as a game, having beaten us twice in the last two games between the teams. Would have been looking at making it a hat trick. So if Hibs hadn't turned up, if we hadn't been at it, we could easily have come a cropper yesterday. So I think to say there's no pressure is probably wrong. Would you agree?
Yes.
It's a leading question, like fucking hell.
There's like pressure's relative, isn't it? Like you could argue, you could make the point that the players that took the field yesterday, the starting 11, and any substitutes that came on, if they don't put in a performance, and if they do get beat, and say Nick Montgomery is in charge next season, then they could easily find themselves as being one of the players that he looks to move on. They're still performing.
Yeah.
They're still having to perform, and there's players. So there's Venti come on and scored. There's Josh Campbell that's been involved in the goal. Like they're players that have found themselves out and they found themselves back in. Like there's like Venti going through on goal. There's pressure on him to score.
Mm-hmm. Should give Josh Campbell a wee congratulations for his 100 appearances.
Definitely.
Aye, well done, Josh. Hibs Boy 69 says, talking points, Hibs v St Johnstone was a must-win game, which we lost. St Johnstone v Hibs was a nothing game, which we won. Typical Hibs, I'd say. Is it typical Hibs?
Same point.
Yeah. Same as we were saying. Tracy Smith said, over the moon for Paul, and glad Lewis is closing in on the 600. If he doesn't make that or overtake it, then there's something seriously wrong. That whole squad would want him to achieve it. John Lewis came on at almost left wing, the way that he played yesterday. He's got to get to the 600,
Aye, he does. But this is the weird thing about me. I'd love to see Stevenson hit 700 appearances. Like and I was thinking about this yesterday with regards to both him and Paul Hanlon, that there's been players that have been at Hibs for a wee while of late. Like say John Yeo, for example, he's been there for about 5 years. Like I think I saw one of his first games against Carlisle pre-season. But when Stevenson and Hanlon leave the club, as it looks like they're going to do at the completion of this season, that'll be like they've always been present pretty much from when I started going to Hibs games by myself, buying my own season tickets, that kind of stuff. So it'll almost be like a sort of, how would you describe it, like passing of the guard kind of thing. And the thing about the whole 600 appearances is, like, we find ourselves in a position where we can probably do that. Like if we were in the top six, would we be having this conversation? I don't know. Like unless Abita was to find himself injured, for example, because you're probably not going to put Paul Stevenson on for like a token gesturism unless the game's won, and it's like you put him on in the 89th minute, but it feels a wee bit, I don't know, a wee bit cheap and nasty.
Right. Why does it matter if he gets 600?
It's just a nice thing, isn't it? Like that round figure. Like if it's touching this, because imagine you ending your career and going, I finished on 598.
Aye, he's got one Scotland cap. Do you think they should give him a second one? Just because?
Nah, because he's got one which is better than none, isn't it? Like, see, if he was on 49 Scotland caps, you'd be going, get him up to the 50. But do you know what I mean?
So it's just sentimentality.
So, and this is the thing, Colin. Like I think some of the points that we fielded before with regards to Stevenson and Hanlon is, like, in terms of the length of service that they've had, move them on. There's no room for sentiment, and this feels like purely sentimental, and I've got no issue with it, but it just, I don't know, it doesn't quite sit right with me.
Does he jump somebody in the last? Or does he stay in like fourth place or third, wherever he is?
I don't know.
Like, because I'm a wee bit like, we're just getting him to get to a round number. Like, I don't know. I'd like him to do it and jump on that bandwagon, but I'm actually sit back and go,
You're
what
just
does it
being
matter?
Would
quite
anyone
cold-hearted about it, are you?
like if we had finished top six and if we had to achieve European football, like we probably wouldn't be talking about 600. It would have been, well, Stevenson got 597 appearances and he never played.
Take 7 off him and give him 590. That's a nice round number as well.
You can't take them off him, can you? You can't make somebody no appear if they've already done it.
Are they 1 minute substitute appearances? They didn't count.
All right, well, he's a harder man than me.
I hope I'm not coming across like
No, but we
a
talk about
Stevenson
we need.
hater.
No, I'm the same. But it's almost like you go. We talk about needing to be ruthless and blah blah blah, and we're just like handing out appearances.
Aye, but we didn't need to be ruthless now. You know what I mean? Like for that, for where we're in the season, for how the season's gone now. And John, I get your point, right? If we're chasing Europe, right, you wouldn't jeopardise something. But put Lewis Stevenson on, didn't they weaken us yesterday? We still played well.
No,
So I mean, and putting Paul Handler on made us better.
And when we're going with the grandbears, in years to come, we'll be saying, "Oh, see that guy there? He'll be like." I'm not saying he's like Pat Stanton in terms of ability, but that's our equivalent. He's the only one that's won 2 cups, eh? So he'll be the one that we're saying, "Oh, that's Lewis Stevenson." Aye, he was in the podcast once.
Aye.
What's a podcast, Granda?
What's a podcast?
It's this fucking daft thing we used to do in the 2020s.
Three fannies got on him.
Aye.
It's fucking shite. He wouldn't jump anybody. No, he'd still be in behind Pat Stanton.
Aye,
but
would he? So it's not going to change his place in the rankings.
No,
then? Right? Okay.
Make him harder to catch, though.
But I wasn't sure if it was taking him into the 3rd place or 4th place. So
just there, right?
So it's just purely a game of chess with 600 in the back.
Do we need to talk about Paul Hanlon yesterday for coming on and he had a great game, really. I mean, obviously, I don't know if he was at fault at all for the goal we conceded, but he got the goal and he definitely played like it meant a lot to him.
Aye, he done well.
Aye, is that enough?
I thought he had a good game, and I think we find ourselves in this odd position where, like, I don't think, and you can go back the 5 years, like, I don't think I've ever been overly critical of Hanlon, and I've probably defended, as I do most players, I've probably defended him on more occasions when more people are having a go at him. Like, he's definitely a good player. He was definitely a really good option to have come off the bench yesterday. But the odd position is that folk have been screaming at him for years. Like Collins mentioned it before, like, you can't mention Hanlon without mentioning Stevenson. It's like they're to blame for all of Hibs' ills.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have this sort of like sentimentality creeping to the surface, and people that are quite keen to keep him, whereas previously they were like, no, get him to fuck because he's absolute shit. And it's something I find really quite challenging.
Is it the same people though? That's the thing.
Well,
it's the same people, eh?
And I don't know how many folk are saying we need to keep him beyond the season, but I think folk are maybe asked why he's not played more this season, given the nick of the defence.
Yeah.
But maybe it's the, like, I understand that point, but maybe there has to be that sort of like ripping the sticking plaster off of. Mm-hmm. Well, you're just not going to see him again. Like, he's not going to play. This is us actively moving him out of the club. Like, we need to start preparing for that new future.
Which had to happen at some point as well, didn't it? Like, I mean, you need to do it eventually, yeah.
But we're preparing for it, surely, with a lone player that isn't even playing that well. You know what I mean? And the team was better when he came on for that lone player. Yeah. So actually, does it then not cast more doubts on the manager? And you go, how can you not see that?
Did they not talk about that when you were on the radio yesterday with regards to Bevan? Like, they looked like he was going to be a starter, but then he came in injured, was further injured, and ended up back down the road. So that's kind of like scuppered all of those plans.
Did I talk about that on the radio?
Not you. No, sorry, not you personally. It was. Right, I think in the lead up to you going on.
Okay. Didn't hear it.
You might have had the radio turned off at that point to avoid the feedback.
Were you at the radio, Colin? Were you at the radio?
They just phone you just when you're just about to go, innit? That's how it works.
Right, Jake Gapper said, why don't Hibs play well under pressure? We've only managed to play consistently well in about 4 seasons out of the last 24, one of them when we were in the Championship, and one when no fans were allowed in during COVID. Pressure comes off, and hey presto, we play well. It's frustrating. Mark McKenzie says much better, but it's only one game. Still don't see Nick Montgomery making it to January, but I hope I'm wrong. Did it change anything for either of you, yesterday's result, on how you view the job the manager's doing or has done?
Colin, I think you said that you were on the fence on the radio yesterday.
Still am, I. Yeah. I still am. I was before. I still am. So nothing's changed for me. It's because of the reasons other folk are saying about. I wasn't calling it pressure. I was more thinking, you know what I mean. I didn't. I think I said in here there was no chance of us falling into the playoffs. And now we can't fall into the playoffs. I didn't see any change at the moment. And actually, as I've said, there you go. You bring Hanlon in, we're better. It's actually, as there more doubts, then you go, why did they not do that? And when we were challenging for the top 6, we only needed like an extra point or two.
That might have been the time to be ruthless, but the other way. So we're going to drop our Man United player. Dave Graham said Hibs have now scored more goals than any team outside of the Old Firm. Not bad for such a boring style of play. If they'd have signed Matty Peltola in Jan or even Lewis Mayo 2 years ago, would be a contender for top 3. Carl said, how good was Ellie telling the guy digging him out on Instagram to shut his mouth?
It was fantastic. Can we... I might just keep doing it, but can we refer to Dave Graham as freelance podcaster Dave Graham?
Yeah, it's okay. Yes, we can relate to. We can refer to him as freelance podcaster Dave Graham. Do you have any strong views on Ellie? You think that players should be happy to bite back more often?
I don't mind it, but it does story problems up because whoever it was, and I've only seen the screenshot. I didn't see the whole thing, the whole conversation. He'll now hold a grudge against him and wait on him making a mistake. I expect. I might be talking out of turn. I don't know who the guy is or girl, but that'll be held against him for the next time he has a bad game or makes a wrong decision, or next time he's in inverted commas bone idle.
Yeah,
I think players. Is there an argument for players inviting folk that give them abuse for a square go?
Because violence is never the answer, John. Violence is never the answer.
HTC 4 o'clock.
But on a slightly serious point, like Marcus Rashford was in the news this week because of the amount of abuse that he'd got, and I think he'd replied to someone saying like, thanks for the encouragement or something similar, because he'd put up with a lot of abuse. And I remembered like previous campaigns, I think during the World Cup, about like players like receiving abuse like out of the blue and whatnot. Like there's a lot of, and I don't, as Colin said, like I don't remember exactly who it was that had a go at Ilya Yuan, but we were having a conversation before we came on about like the difference between criticism and abuse. And I think a lot of the time what you're seeing is that players are coming in for abuse, and they are very, like, quite often players don't have any sort of response because it seems like there's more punishment, retribution for the player if they come out and say something. Like if it was to happen in the stands, like the fans can do and say whatever they want, but if the player reacts, let's fine him, let's book him, send him off, whatever it happens to be. So I'm more than happy for him to have a go at the guy back, because if you're going to dish it out, you've got to take it as well.
Yeah. Okay, East Stand Highby's next up now. I think I'm just going to have a quick check to see if he's got a first point, because he does refer to a second point here. Oh yeah, first point. Why save our best till now? Created loads of chances and played with freedom and a will to win. And the second point that does my head in, folk going mental as we didn't play the youngsters, but we have 18 out on loan. We played our strongest 11 and got a result. I think we kind of talked about the youngsters earlier on. Would you play strongest 11 from now to the end of the season?
If you're Nick Montgomery, you probably are, because that statement suggests you need to win games. He needs to get the fans back on board. That's good. Even if he wins 5 out of 5, folk will still go, I think he'll be here in January, as we've already had. So he needs to win as many of those 5 as he can to build some credit in the bank, so that the stats look better, so that when they start getting pulled out next year again, that the numbers look good. Because that's how it works. It's like that's how the momentum starts in the fan base when you go. But he's not won. What will happen in August if we didn't win the first fucking game of the season? He's not won a game since fucking May or April. You know what I mean?
It rolls back, aye.
So, you know, he needs to. I think he needs to win as many as he can. So I can see why he wouldn't play the youngsters, but I'd like to see a couple on the bench because I think there's space for them.
Right, we'll read the ones we've got on screen. We'll cover, and then that's us because we're out of time. Right, so Lon's got 2 points here. The first one's we should have scored about 7. Much better from Boyle today, apart from that dink. Delighted for Venti coming on and scoring. Hopefully him and Hanlon start the next game. My leader's levels above everyone. It's like he's a 16-year-old playing against 12-year-olds sometimes. And Marconde's free kick was outstanding, but again, he done very little. Tried too many clever touches and gave the ball away. John, I mentioned about Marcondes during the game to say like his free kick was spectacular, but I think his first touch on a number of occasions after that was harder than he hit that free kick. He gave the ball away loads. I think he sort of redeemed himself a wee bit in his second half performance and created a few chances. But what did you make of his performance yesterday?
I thought he had a good game. I thought, so I referenced, well, we talked about the free kick. There was the other one that you saw in the replay that was the far away. There was the other one where he's played the ball out for Boyle, but Boyle's not started his run early enough. And I think I was having a conversation again with Dave on the way up the road because he's he's probably going to be as big a Marcondes fan potentially as he is a Paul Hanlon fan. And he was talking about Marcondes and what he actually does. And he reckons that Marcondes is playing it and has played at a higher level, so he's needing players to try and come up to his sort of wavelength, like what he's thinking about the game. But that doesn't. I don't think that necessarily explains like the poor touch. So the one that you saw with Marshall playing the ball out to him, and he's looking to try and flick it around the ball on the turn. They seem like simple things that he could be doing. That's nothing to do with wavelength. That's him taking a bad touch. But are we going to crucify players for every bad touch that they make? And I think, and this is the thing. Well, but this is that sort of back to front way of thinking that I go about things sometimes. Like I almost find myself arguing with myself. So you know how we've had the conversation about Yuan recently about how he's had 21 goal involvement. So he's had like 10 goals and 11 assists, and we go, well, aye, but he's cost us a goal here. It's almost like we place more emphasis on the goal that he cost us rather than the overwhelming positive contribution that he's made. So Marcondes has scored yesterday, but went but he's had a couple of bad touches.
See though, right?
Every player has a bad touch. Like if you saw the Arsenal game today, like I think there's been a really shite passage of play, I think, for the goalkeeper and a bad touch that's led to Spurs scoring.
Yeah.
And that's it. We're looking at it going, that's like the pinnacle of football, the best league in the world, and they're making the same sort of mistakes.
Aye.
Do we not want players though that have got a bit of magic? So sometimes they've got to make mistakes, sometimes they're not got to work as hard, right? Like Russell Latipi came out and he would do fuck all and then like do something brilliant. And that's the bit you should remember. But we seem to be now flipped that a wee bit to remember all the shit bits.
Aye.
And it's like, remember Latipi was remembered because he was a wee magician. But he was doing loads of shit things as well, or not being involved. He was just, the game would bypass him and then all of a sudden he would just do something. Or Riordan, or again, fuck, it's went in my head. There was 3 of them. I was thinking of there, right? But we've had players like that. You just need other players round about it to work hard to allow that guy to do the brilliant stuff.
Aye, I'm on board with that. I think if you want to have a maverick players or folk who do the spectacular, you have to be prepared for the spectacular that sometimes no work.
No going about it. Aye.
Ian Talkhill said, nothing that has happened has changed my mind from months ago. I said when it mattered, not where we ended up, top or bottom 6. I think we have made progress, maybe not enough mind under Monty, and I think he needs more time. 1 January window is not enough. Keith Robertson said, great performance, handled the pressure well, could have been further ahead, but the result was the important thing. Coupled with Livy beating County, a good weekend. Might avoid defeating a County next week and we're safe. Able to look ahead to next season. Shutting up Levine was nice too. I think, Colin, you said we're already... See, I haven't fact checked. I just assumed...
I think it's because... No, so we're 12 points clear with 4 games to play, but 2 of the other teams play each other, so they can't both win. So,
right,
the 2 that can... so we're safe for that point of view. Yeah.
Aldo said, putting a proper defender in, Hanlon on when Fish had to go off and not that pretender Chiantis. Raymond Gray said, good result and performance, but it shouldn't be interpreted as anything other than that. In fact, questions need to be asked as to why all of a sudden players are turning up. Still didn't have the hunger for a clean sheet that would have been a big plus, and no anger when they lost the goal. And the last point was the half Monty says, should the chopped off goal have stood? Thought keeper kicked it against Rocky. I think Rocky did, as you said, Colin, take a wee step to the left.
Just enough.
Just enough. I suppose, like, I don't want to take anything away from Hibs' performance because I thought we were really good. St Johnstone were fucking dreadful, though. Like, the other thing, and you give Hibs credit for making them look dreadful, but that was as bad a team as I've seen for a long, long time, since maybe
For a
that.
fortnight.
Yeah. Since we played the last time, obviously they dug it a win that game. Okay, right, that's us. We're out of time anyway. Thanks very much for tuning in. Now, if you're a subscriber, we'll have extra time out on Tuesday night. If you don't subscribe, I would thoroughly recommend going and checking out our Patreon. You can get 7 days free. You'll be able to have a look at our extra time content. It's really good stuff, if we say so ourselves, like really in-depth conversations about a particular topic. And also, if you subscribe, you get access to our phone-ins on Thursday. These are proven to be really popular so far, but with a really great response. To kind of make sure we didn't get people in that aren't necessarily Hibs fans, as we sometimes got when we did the Twitter Spaces. We have limited participation on these to subscribers, so we'd love to hear from as many folk as possible. If you want to come on and talk about the game or anything else that's going on at Hibs, whether you've been to the game or not, we don't mind. If you're a subscriber, you'll see the Zoom details posted on there through the week. So have a look. You'll see the Zoom details. You can just dial in. You don't have to give us like advance notice. We'll let you on, and we don't. But we don't turn anybody away. You only get turned away if you were abusive or whatever. So you're more welcome to come on. The episodes get streamed live on YouTube, so if you've not seen them, just subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. You can do that free, and you'll get a notification when we go live, and you can tune in. But to come on, you do need to subscribe, and if you want to subscribe, go to Patreon. Like I said, you get 7 days free. Right, thanks for tuning in, and we will be, we'll be back next time, and we'll see you then. Cheers. Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee.